let's get Janet Phelan here. She's been having a lot of stuff happening in the last little bit, a few weeks. Of course, that is The Life of Janet Phelan, her book, which I had mentioned last week. I will mention it again now that we have this live video, that I did purchase extra copies of Exile by Janet Phelan, and that if someone would like to write me an email and send it for it, I will send it to them on the request that they, of course, actually read it. And there's a lot of people who collect books, so but actually read it, and I'd like them to go to the Book Patch website to write a review. I'm not saying you have to write a good review. I'm just saying I'd like to, have you write a review. That's all, my only request. So just send an email to f2f@innersights.com and with your address, and I will send it to you. And right now, let me push the semi-magic button, because it doesn't always bring magic, and welcome Janet Phelan. And welcome, Janet.
Thank you very much, James. It's nice to be back on. It feels like it's been a while.
It has. A lot has been happening. I'm going to have to work on your picture while we chat here. So go ahead and let me take another capture. So go ahead. Why don't you fill us in on your actual your reports for this week, and how things been going too. By the way, in these last weeks.
Things are just getting too interesting for words, but maybe we'll talk about this another day, because we've got a lot really to cover today. I just want to mention I spent the afternoon in an indigenous community close to San Cristobal de las Casas. A person that I know here, his name is Paul Poirier. He is a Canadian, and he has an NGO, and comes down every year from Canada to help people build houses. He helps fund the building of their houses. I was in one of these houses that people inhabit in these indigenous communities today, and the walls were cardboard. It was a one-room house with a little bit of, I think, area where one could cook, and a bed, and cardboard walls. And Paul has been raising money up in Canada through various organizations and coming down for several months a year and building houses. And actually today there was a celebration because he had built a school in this indigenous community. And anyway, it was quite a lovely day. The people were just, the people in the community were really so warm and so friendly and so welcoming. They cook a dinner for Paul and for a couple of other people who are part of his organization as a way of saying thanks. And they provided the guests with an enormous amount of posh. Posh is like moonshine. Okay, they make their own alcohol. So I don't really drink much. I had a taste of it. Kind of tasted like turpentine to me, but it was really quite a lovely party. So that's actually where I spent most of the afternoon. It was nestled, the community was nestled in one of the most beautiful areas. I mean, the mountains of Chiapas are absolutely gorgeous. And there's, this community of about 600 people, very poor, living in cardboard houses, a lot of them. But just so happy to get a school for their kids. So it was really a lovely experience for me. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Yep.
When I hear of the word Chiapas, I think of coffee. That's what I think of.
Well, yeah. Chiapas coffee is renowned, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was very, very good when I was in, what is it now? Mexico City? DF? I guess it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to a cafe and I was trying to buy some, and I kept forgetting I inverted my kilograms and pounds conversion, so I went the other way and I wanted to buy some, and he's looking at me, mucho grande, and I'm thinking like, well, because the size, I had it opposite. I was going to buy many many pounds, and I wanted, because it's half, it's half as much as the other, and I got them mixed up. But I bought some, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, the coffee here is really renowned. It's famous. So, okay. Well, let's get to work then. What I'd really like to talk about today is an issue that has been developing in the state of California, which should really alarm everyone in the country. As we know, we have in the U.S. we have Freedom of Information requests. Those are essentially for federal records, and then we have Public Records Act requests, which are for state or local, not federal agencies. And recently, I filed a series of Public Records Act requests, first with the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau in California, and then with the Department of Justice in California, and come to find that both agencies have apparently decided to simply ignore the requests. The Professional Fiduciaries Bureau is the agency that oversees professional guardians, conservators, people who supposedly take care of elderly and disabled people. And as we have seen, unfortunately, the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau has adopted a practice of protecting professional guardians. So you may file a complaint with the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. You may never hear about it again. If you do press the issue, you will find that it was dismissed. They simply are not doing the oversight that they were mandated to do. Now, I have an article that was published a few years ago about this. I believe it's called The State of California and Failure to Protect, which you can find. It was published originally in the San Bernardino County Sentinel, but you can find the article online, and it goes into some of the travesties and contortions that the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau is engaged in order to cover up crimes being committed by guardians. And as we have discussed on your show a number of times, these crimes are fairly serious. They involve embezzlement, and in some cases they involve acts by the guardians which result in the termination of the lives of their wards. I believe, I'm trying to use professional language here, I believe the vernacular here is murder.
Murder, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is actually a very serious agency tasked with a very serious job. Now, I filed a Public Records Act request, I believe back in January, with the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, asking for the numbers of complaints that agency had received on two guardians. One is named Frumi LeBeau. She's a guardian in the Los Angeles area, and the other was on Melody Scott. And I got a reply back from Julia Ansel, who is now the chief of the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, which grossly misstated the California Public Records Act. So trying to give Ms. Ansel the benefit of the doubt, I cut and pasted the part of Government Code 6254 F2, which makes these records disclosable, at which point the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau terminated all correspondence with me. Now, this is illegal. Ms. Ansel is breaking the law. Now, the question would be, why doesn't she want to release these records? Now, this is a very limited request. I'm not asking for contents of requests or the names of parties who have filed the complaints, simply the numbers. But she doesn't want us to know how many people have complained about Frumi LeBeau and Melody Scott. Now, Melody Scott has a history with the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. Back around 2009, there was an action taken by the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, which had basically just come into existence in 2008, there was an effort to deny Melody Scott's initial application for a license. At that point in time, there were a number of complaints already on file with the PFB about Melody Scott, alleging crimes that ranged from theft, perjury, to murder. And the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau made a decision to ignore all of the complaints, some of which were heavily documented, and to focus only on the fact that she lied on her licensing application. And this was the decision that was made. All of those complaints were dismissed. And Melody Scott, who lied on her licensing application, ended up having her license handed to her on a silver platter by the very agencies that were allegedly prosecuting her license. And basically we had two issues here. One, the Deputy Attorney General named Jonathan Cooper, who was representing the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau in this action, tried about halfway through the hearings to cut a deal for Melody Scott. He was going, as long as she paid for the attorney's fees, for several days of hearings up to that point, he was going to give her a license. Now, I found out about this. I had in my corner, shall we say, a little mole in Melody Scott's cabal. Okay, and the mole alerted me that she was going to get her license. I contacted Jonathan Cooper to verify this, and he absolutely denied that this was true. And I then contacted the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, and their spokesperson, who apparently hadn't talked to Mr. Cooper and gotten their story straight, admitted that this was going to happen. So we published this article in the San Bernardino County Sentinel, and Cooper was heavily embarrassed, and the deal went off the table. However, Melody Scott did end up getting her license on a so-called technicality. The Department of Consumer Affairs, which houses the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, had issued an order saying that Melody was not going to get her license after the hearings, and the attorney who was to file this order was told to file it untimely. He was told to hold off and wait until, I'm serious here, these are the masters, this is our government at work. He was told to file it too late. He filed it too late. Melody went running into a state superior court and claimed misconduct on the part of the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau, and was granted her license on a technicality. This is back around 2010, 2011. So, come to find again that Melody Scott is again this April, that's this month, in fact, in a few days, she's going to be again in administrative hearings with the state of California because, again, she lied on her paperwork going into the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. Professional fiduciaries are supposed to do, I believe, the kind of updated current coursework to keep their licenses current. She didn't do the coursework, and she said she did. Okay, this is a very sort of minimal and technical sort of aspect. But knowing that with the first go-around, there were multiple consumer complaints against her, alleging really serious crimes, none of which were appropriately prosecuted by the Bureau, I wanted to know this time how many complaints do you have. But this time, they won't tell you. This time, they're going to violate their own laws, their own public records acts, in order to keep this information from going public. This is a fairly serious degree of cover-up. You have a woman, a Melody Scott, who is has terminated the lives of her clients. And I'm going to give some names here. There's Lawrence Yetzer. There's Elizabeth Fairbanks. There's Doris Baker. There's Stevie Price. The list goes on and on and on. basically what happens is, as a guardian, as a conservator, Melody Scott is in charge, generally a conservator of estate, which means she's in charge of all the money, and conservator of person, which means she makes all the personal, medical, social decisions for her ward. So when her wards run out of money, they tend to be denied medical care. She has, on the record, and this has been published, she has denied life-saving treatment like antibiotics to wards who come down with pneumonia and instead overdose them on morphine. This is a matter of record. I personally call that murder. The state of California doesn't seem to have a problem with this. So, we have actions that are being protected by government, which are, redolent of what do you call it? Eugenics, attacks on the elderly and disabled, and the state of California is fearsomely protecting, and is going so far as to violate their own public records laws, their own sunshine laws, in order to keep this information from going public. So at that point, this is all now happening quite recently, I decide that I will make the same Public Records Act requests of the Department of Justice, because it stands to reason that there might also be individuals who have complained to the Department of Justice about Melody Scott. In fact, I know the names of a number of them. And the response came back again from Jonathan Cooper, saying rather nastily, the only person who ever complained about Melody Scott to us was you. Well, I actually have the report numbers from others who have complained about Melody Scott. So I wrote Mr. Cooper back and I said, well, what about this individual? What about this individual? And then Mr. Cooper changed. Oh, he's very slippery, this man. He changes his tune and he says, oh, well, we don't actually file the complaints under the name of the person complained about. We file under the name of the complainant. So we have no way of knowing. Now, I want to say something about this, because this, a gullible person might actually go, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. Now, let's say you want to go after, okay, you're creating a file, let's say on Al Capone, okay, you're going to take down Al Capone, but you're not, the file isn't under Al Capone, it's under Joe Blow and Jim Wright and people who gave you information about Al Capone. Does that make any sense to you? No, it makes no sense.
It does
whatsoever.
make sense if you want to not, correlate it together. If you want to not have it be noticed, that makes sense. If your goal is to have it hidden.
Well, see, this is an interesting thing. So I'm thinking, well, I've got to cover all my bases here. So I filed 2 subsequent Public Records Act requests with the Department of Justice. I gave 2 names of people who I know beyond a shadow of a doubt filed complaints with the Department of Justice against Melody Scott. Because if they're filing them under the complainants, then, okay, what do you got on Steve and what do you got on Russell, right? The Department of Justice won't answer that either. They simply won't answer. So the Department of Justice is violating. I'm not asking for the contents. I'm not saying, did they tell you that Melody, stole money? Did they tell you that Melody killed their father? Did they tell you? No. I'm just asking for the numbers of complaints. So, we've really got a crisis now in California, because those in power are so, shall we say, secure now in the power that they have accumulated, that they're not going to do anything except, excuse my language here, raise their left leg and pee on the public. So this is what we're dealing with now in California. Now, I want to bring this up specifically also because we now have movements in other states to follow California's example and set up similar sorts of agencies to the Professional Fiduciaries Bureau. For example, it looks like now there was a recent Senate hearing in Florida about guardianship abuse, and they're going to set up the same agency. They're going to call it the Office of Professional Guardians, right? So I think, and similarly, it looks like there's a similar movement now in Arizona, possibly also in Ohio. So this is actually the solution that government is offering us. We have a group of people, professional guardians and conservators, who are using their power in order to absolutely devastate the lives and life savings of their wards. And the solution in California was to set up a sort of a protective agency, which is mandated to protect the public. That's what they're supposed to do, which is only protecting the guardians, and will violate the law in order to do so. And now we have a similar action being launched in Florida, and it looks like other states are following suit. And I know there are a lot of people out in Florida right now who are celebrating because they think, oh, we've had all these problems in our cases and the courts are doing all these bad things, and now finally we're going to have an Office of Professional Guardians, and they're going to investigate, and they're going to protect our elders. And that is not what's going on. And in order to really understand the depth of the attack that is going on against elderly and disabled people through these guardianships, one has to really understand what this is all about, where this is coming from, and who is protecting the miscreants. And it is apparently the state guardianship programs are apparently an underground federal program that is being run through the states. And I say this because every attempt to engage law enforcement at every level, police, state, and federal would be FBI, complaints to the Department of Justice. All of these complaints virtually all of them are being ignored and simply not attended to. So there is a protection racket going on, and the protection racket does appear to be federal. So those in Florida who are absolutely rejoicing now because they're getting their Office of Professional Guardians need to pay very close attention to what's happening in California, because what's happening in California is they've only added a further level of protection.
All right. Well, now I do have a webpage up. Do you want to go through this? We're kind of getting short on time. So do you want to go through this webpage on a NEO News Network?
Right. And yes, pursuant to all of this, there's an article that I do want to bring your attention to, which is now on the front page of the New Eastern Outlook, which is the media source that I write for. The article is by me, and it's entitled "The Covert Eugenics Agenda, Melody Scott and Dr. Wouter Basson." And what the article is attempting to do is to draw in some sort of diverse and disparate threads, and to use them to elucidate the fact that we really are seeing a eugenics agenda. It is targeting the elderly and disabled, and actually other groups which are discussed in the article. And it is manifesting itself not only through Melody Scott and guardianship, but also through other sorts of avenues. So once again, it's on the front page of New Eastern Outlook, entitled "The Covert Eugenics Agenda, Melody Scott and Dr. Wouter Basson."
Well, all right. Well, it's good to have you back, and we'll see what leads us. There are people who are writing me saying that things are changing in the world, that there's a lot of people coming forward. The rich are buying things for the poor. The white hats are coming and all that. I would sure like to see that, but maybe it's just beyond the horizon.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I think there are more and more people speaking out against these sorts of abuses. And there's recently an article on Examiner.com by an attorney named Candace Schwager concerning these abuses going on in Texas. And I'm, was very heartened to see this article and to see Ms. Schwager's work, because we do have more and more people speaking out about these abuses, and this is absolutely necessary. I want to make a very quick plug. This coming Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time, I'm going to be interviewed on Liberty Talk Radio by Joe Christiani. So if you want to hear a bit more about different things that I talk about, you can tune in at 8 a.m. this Thursday to libertytalkradio.com.
All righty. Well, very good.
That's it for now.
All right. There we go. All righty. We will talk to you later. And God bless, and we'll see you again.
God bless.
Right.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
That is Janet Phelan. JanetPhelan.com is the website. Of course, she's all writes for several publications, New Eastern Outlook being one of the ones currently, I guess, forefronting her work. That is journal-neo.org. You could just type in NEO, New Eastern Outlook. I'm sure you get links to it. And right now, her story is on the cover. We'll be back with Less Visible right after this.